it's been a while since I looked at it, because I've been so wrapped up in this Duke pipeline thing coming up that I haven't had it.
Sure, yeah, as I understand, there were some
Chance to do
problems at the zoning committee meetings with regard to the red line. I was not in attendance at that meeting, unfortunately. Hopefully you have heard
Yes.
from the members regarding that. That seemed to be a big debacle.
Greg,
Yeah, I don't know if it was a debacle, it was more or less the zoning commission members wanted every single change. So if you went from point A and point D was presented, they wanted B and C in there as well. And I'm looking through Mr. Flynn's comments right now, and I don't know if I agree with all of them. But if that's what zoning commission wants to see, how we went from 30 to 25 feet to 33 feet to 40 feet to 12 feet, which was eventually submitted, then we'll just show the history, just make it more confusing.
okay. I think the question was, and we had a conversation about this from planning and zoning, whether they were looking at true red line corrections, and apparently there were some that were already made and then left in there, were not.
That's correct.
Yeah.
There were some issues with some of the terminology.
And I think, did you speak with Paul about fixing?
Yeah, I met with Paul, we
Okay.
talked about all that, and we've also adjusted some of the verbiage. For example, we are getting rid of the term PUD. Our PUDs are administrative site plan, so we're working on showing how that process lays out. I didn't like the way it looked, and I think you understand some of the comments to that.
So that's, Paul was addressing that?
Paul's addressing
Okay,
that.
which is what I think you're asking about.
So there will be no significant, other than technical changes to the zoning regulations at this time.
I can't answer that because I
Yeah,
have.
that's the question of the beholder, because if you change, for example, we're changing the term PUD to site plan review. Well, someone's gonna say, well, that's not a technical change. I mean, that's in the eye of the beholder. As far as, are we changing the way you can use your land? Are we saying that you can no longer have retail in an office district? No. Are we adjusting the way the code deals with some of the constitutional issues that have come out of the Supreme Court? Yes. Are we changing the fact that, your setback has gotta be 35 feet? No. So, while yes, the changes can be significant, you can't just arbitrarily say they're technically wrong, because everybody will have a different opinion.
Sure, okay.
But the way you use your land will not be altered.
Okay, following up on that, since we're going round and round, the Jacobs agreement that the township approved did have citizens' participation for zoning. When is that going to be done?
It was an optional event. That's up to the board of trustees if they want to do it. If it was done, Jacobs would participate.
That was one of the boxes that was checked in the actual agreement.
Sure, but it was an optional item, it didn't have to be done.
I saw that there was an email correspondence that stated, per the township, there would be limited citizens' input. I'm just wondering if there was an actual vote on that, or if that was something you arbitrarily discussed and decided.
I really don't understand your question, doesn't make much sense.
Okay.
I don't understand it either.
So there was a comment by Jacob stating that the township wanted limited citizens' input.
So I have not seen that, nor have I heard that.
It's in the contract, but, I mean, that's just kind of picking random words out.
Which are not the contract.
I have not seen that, nor have I heard that.
I'll bring it to the next
Great.
trustee meeting for discussion. Thank you. Speed radar units. We apparently have a museum going on in the back. We've had a speed radar unit back there for how many years? Anyone?
6+ easy.
Are we starting a museum? What are we doing? This has been brought up for years and it still sits back there.
Greg, you know the status of that unit. I know that it doesn't it's not operational. And it may- let me finish, please. It's not operational, and it may cost more to fix it than if perhaps we go out and buy another one in this place. But I'll yield to Greg, because
Yeah, I
Greg has
can't-
looked into that.
I don't have a title to it, so I can't just arbitrarily get rid of it, and I don't know if, or that's not yours.
It's not ours, it's
So-
not the county's.
The only other thing we can do is declare it obsolete, Doug. Do we have any legal ramifications for getting rid of it? I can't find a title to
You
it?
don't have a title.
Not if you follow you're just gonna pitch it.
Okay, yeah, it's not salvage, it's not worth.
Doesn't have any value.
So there's never
You can do
been
that.
an estimate to repair it because there's a need in our community for speed signs and monitoring.
Yeah, the last estimate was probably 2006 for Probably about 10 grand.
If I
If you
may,
have an estimate you wanna present to us, I'm happy to receive it.
Haven't been hired as a consultant for that, sir.
the sign that Mr. Kellums put up on Shagbark, I think you said, Mr. James, right, Shagbark? That's kind of the trend, and it's portable, it's like everything else. I'm not a techie, but it's like computers and camera systems. They're smaller, they're more efficient, more easy to use. We can retrieve more from them, you know, from a law enforcement side. If you did move, I would, as Mr. Miller said, pitch it and look at maybe a less expensive, more user-friendly unit that you could put in virtually any community. So
That, and I've had, and I've worked with Mr. Collins, who's not here, on getting that speed sign at, on the calling, because we have a cut-through problem. And there's lots of streets that evidently have requested this. From what I understand, there is only one of those units in the township.
Correct.
So that's why I was inquiring if we could get that fixed. If not, there's a waiting list of citizens that wanna have these speed monitoring devices on their streets for safety. I've asked Mr. Kellums for over a year if the township is going to purchase one, and it's just radio silence.
You know, I looked that up once. Those are affordable. Those are in the $1,000 range. You can buy, if you buy 4 or 5.
They're 2 grand.
Yeah,
it's $2,000.
you can buy those and they're disposable like anything that's electronic these days. So we may wanna look into that rather than try and repair something that's.
I'm thinking of particular energy to fix an obsolete piece
Yeah.
of equipment back there.
That's a,
No, but I'm not opposed to acquiring even one or even two.
yeah.
You tell me how many you guys want, we'll get them.
Then can you get some prices that,
We have prices, yeah.
And
Tori's
bring
got them.
the next workshop?
Tracy's been working on getting some.
Yeah, just bring it to the next workshop.
Sure, that was
Yeah.
a workshop, yeah.
Thank you very much. Wanted to circle back to DARE training. Tom, you brought this up a couple months ago. Has anything occurred with that? Or-
The gentleman, we mentioned his name several months ago, his name was Sergeant Jay Schmidt. Jay retired, he had a medical issue, so he was off for quite some time. He's recovered from that, but he is officially retired and is now a special deputy. He's an auxiliary deputy. He's coordinated with the sheriff to fulfill his, I'm gonna get off track, special deputies have a volunteer agreement with the county. They're not paid employees like I am. He is going to fulfill his special deputy requirements as, or by teaching DARE. So he will be at All Saints, he will be at
St.
Vincent's.
Vincent.
So that will resume, that is happening.
And is he compensated by those schools?
I don't believe so, no. To my knowledge, there has been grant funding through the state and other places for materials, teaching aids, things of that nature, but it's never been to my knowledge, I've never been a DARE instructor, so. DARE is kind of going by the way, and I think we exchanged me by the
Yeah,
wayside.
That's my follow-up, is there are other approaches. I've heard from other people that DARE is an outdated approach. That's
Depends
their
on who you
opinion.
ask.
That's their opinion. What is the township doing to ensure that, and I don't even know if the township's involved in this.
Well-
What is the township doing to ensure that this type of, or some education is in the schools that are in the township territory?
Well, we're hoping that DARE is continued, working with the retired officer that's now you may think that DARE is outdated and it doesn't work, but other people have a different opinion of that, so that, you know, I can't answer that. I know that it's been well received in the two schools. We've continued to operate with DARE program in the past. They receive it well, they think it's helpful, we are all for it. So if you are of the opinion, a different opinion, I mean, I don't know if you're an authority on this, in this area or not, but I'm gonna yield to the authority our instructor, who seems to think that it's very effective, so.
Well, I know it's one program. I didn't know if the township took the time to do others. It may not be important, but I'm just asking, since you brought it up a couple months ago.
The schools do their own education programs. Deer Park School District in particular is very active with Prevention First and is ongoing programs. I don't know the specifics on any of the other 5 school districts that actually are located in Sycamore Township, but that training has generally been initiated at the school level. we're gonna continue to work with Prevention First. We have a community forum that we're in the process of planning. And I suspect that it's my intention to try and incorporate, or to at least to invite representatives from the other school districts to attend it. We can't force them, it's a voluntary program.
So the reason I asked this is I believe the township was funding this partially in the past, is that correct?
I don't know the answer to that.
I don't-
I know.
I don't either, and I don't believe so.
I don't
but
think that's the case.
I don't think so.
I know that at one point,
It was a grant.
Sergeant Smith was telling us that there were some prizes given away for essay contests and things like that at St. Vincent's and All Saints, and those prizes were paid for with recovered drug money.
Correct.
Asset forfeiture funds, things like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I was just under the impression the township had actually funded
Yeah,
that.
we've supported it, but I'm not aware that we funded it.
We've been very supportive of it, but we have not funded it, I don't believe.
Okay, maybe I just didn't understand the term support in that context.
And again, with DARE, all these different jurisdictions are doing different things, like for instance, city of Sharonville, which you're close to, and your kids go to,
Homeschool.
they teach the entire DARE curriculum. Other departments take pieces or parts from the curriculum and maybe speak to or instruct kids of a certain age. And then other departments, a lot of departments have abandoned DARE completely, including, I've heard, I don't know, on the West Coast where this came from, so. At the high school level, we participate in a Safe Communities program, and we coordinate with Tri-Health, Bethesda North, folks at Bethesda North, and a variety of other places. So there are several different programs out there. It kind of just depends on who our audience is.
Yeah, and specifically with the effort that the township has supported with High Point, we know that Stewart Elementary is right near High Point. I just want to make sure that
Sure.
the township is supporting it any way that it can.
So that's in Sharonville, and I got it on pretty good authority that Sharonville PD is continuing to teach the entire DARE curriculum. So
Okay.
they should be receiving that at Stewart.
Okay, thank you. I received a mailer, thank you, for, or actually someone shared this, I got it now, but on April 15th, there will be a conditional use application, and maybe Greg, you could speak to this better, but it has to deal with the proposed project on this property, and I wanted to understand, maybe Doug, you could speak to this even. In certain instances, such as what was proposed on Kugler Mill, there was an open house. So I'm wondering why there wasn't an open house for this.
The conditional use hearing will be the public input process.
Okay, so is it required, are open houses required?
No,
They're not required.
Encouraged but not required.
that's
Okay.
for zone changes that are required.
Yeah.
This facility did not, it's open house as it's public hearing on the conditional use.
So you're saying the meeting on the 15th is the open house?
It is the conditional use hearing for it.
Okay, so
There is no open house.
There is no open house.
That's correct.
And as I understand it, at that meeting, where this is, for a lot of people and the neighbors, the first opportunity for them to see this project, that it could be approved?
Well, the conditional use is a use that is permitted with certain conditions. This particular use meets those conditions. It's no different than if you add a deck onto your house. If you get a permit for it, you're entitled to build that deck. That is the case for this particular building here. But because it is a institutional use in a residential district, it requires conditional use approval.
So, but it could be approved on the 15th?
I would expect that it would be approved on the 15th.
In essence, then there is no open house for the public to view what's being proposed and speak on.
The plans are on the website and the notices went out and the plans are here at the building.
Is this a BZA case?
That's correct.
You don't have open houses on BZA.
Correct, yeah,
Yeah,
that's what I
that's
said.
correct.
Yeah, open house are only zone changes.
Just so that the citizens that are on here would know what's going on, so I think that's what open houses are for. Also, I wanted to understand, the as you put it, the BZA, the conditional use approval. There was a vote at the trustee meeting, for bond, financing, I have that terminology, accurate. That is for the same project, correct?
That's correct.
And the trustees have voted to move forward on that, correct?
That's
We
correct.
voted on the bond resolutions, yes,
Okay.
yes.
And that is, so that's for that project that has yet to be approved by the BZA.
That's correct.
So
They have a funding source to build something.
You approve funding for something that has not been approved.
That's correct.
Okay, so I understand.
Right, it is a conditional use, that is a permitted use, and we meet all the requirements of the conditional use.
Okay. Tom, you joined the board in 2006.
Yes.
Okay. And with the land use plans, is it the process going forward that the land use plan will be revised every 5 years, did I hear?
That's it.
Well, so our intent going forward with this new plan is more of a comprehensive plan. It's gonna be revised on a consistent basis. This land use board may stick around and become the recommendation body for changes to that plan. For example, if we complete a traffic study, if we complete an environmental study, whatever we complete, we're gonna have to put the executive summary inside of that. So anytime you go to that document, you will have a current plan of Sycamore Township. In years past, and this is every community around, they just do these plans, and ours is no exception. It sits on a shelf. And then you look at it and you say, oh, okay, this is not supposed to be commercial, they wanna be commercial, so I'm gonna pull this plan out and say you deny this because of this plan. But then when the shoe's on the other foot, and you want something, and the land use plan doesn't say that you should have it, you just kind of put the land use plan on the back burner. So this is gonna be more of an active live document than it is just a static plan.
So,
Thank you.
so to answer your question, it wouldn't be regimented at a 5-year period, it will be consistently changing as we go.
Okay.
So it'll be reviewed, they'll be, continue to review certain aspects of it, correct, Greg?
That's correct.
As the city of Sharondale, I believe, is doing this now.
There's a bunch of communities that are, communities are always doing these.
Right, so along those lines, would the Citizens Steering Committee, in essence, be a standing working group, standing committee?
There's a potential for that to happen. Again, it's gonna be ad hoc. The decisions have to be made by the zoning commission and board of trustees, but this could be an advisory board, which if it works out and the board wants to continue the service, then it's certainly a possibility. We're currently kicking that idea around, and we'll see when the process completes, where it goes from there.
And there was a Citizens Ad Hoc Committee before?
Yeah, we had an ad hoc committee in 2002. We had a loose one in 2008.
I don't think we want this to get away from us. If, you're talking about keeping it active, changing it all the time. We have to really keep on top of it to do that because we have in the past.
It's no
And if
different than-
necessary, I
It's
think
no
we
different.
talked about 5 years a couple times.
Well, yeah, but if you're gonna keep it active, then you're gonna change it on a
Yes.
constant basis. So anytime you do a new study, anytime you do a new traffic study, the summary gets slid in there. So, yeah, there's, the opportunity to keep it active is there. It's just gonna take action by the township to make sure that happens.
And I think that if we do that, I think then that will eliminate the need for having to do an actual formal process change every 5 years, because there will be changes that will be ongoing, as opposed to that sitting on the shelf for 5 years and then somebody picking it up and looking at it.
I just wanted to get some clarification, because I went back and listened to a meeting, and there was a quote that said, so previous boards did not have the interest in updating every 5 years. And when Mr. Wiedemann came on board, we began that process, but that was 2006, and it hasn't been done in 13 years. So
Yeah,
I
that's
just want to
correct.
make sure that.
Boards before this one had no interest in it. We tried to bring it forward several times, and it just never got off the ground. In fact, obviously not this configuration, but the previous configuration, just, I had the 2008 plan, I had it ready to go, and for whatever reason, the trustees at the time shut it down, so I don't know why.
Well, the citizens, have a voice, they should have a voice that's heard. I just want to make sure it's part of the process. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else?
That's it.
Okay. Lieutenant Sheriff update report.
Good evening, board. I don't have a lot. It's a little early for the March statistics, but once I have them within the next week or so, I'll get those to Mr. Bickford for his review. Just a couple of quick notes. Spring has kind of sprung, so some traffic safety initiatives are going to commence. The month of April has been designated as Distracted Driver Awareness Month. We're not doing anything specific or for that initiative, but we, as a kind of a public service announcement, we would like to definitely remind our citizens to please pay attention on the driving task and try to eliminate or minimize those distractions, particularly cell phones inside the vehicles. Moeller High School as well as Sycamore High School will be having their prom events later this month. I think the weekend of the 26th and 27th. We'll have grant overtime targeted enforcement areas established in response to the prom season. So you'll see extra or more deputies, I should say, out there on the streets over the weekend and evenings. In addition to what you see normally. That carries over into May as Indian Hill and Deer Park both have their prom events scheduled. And then we'll move into the Clicker Ticket, the National Seatbelt Safety Campaign in late May. We always take part in that, and we'll step up our safety restraint enforcement as well. So a lot of traffic stuff kind of heating up as the weather gets nicer and social events begin to pop up. That's about all I have from the Sheriff's Office at this point.
Okay, any questions? Chief, EMS Fire?
I sent the monthly report out to you guys today. If there's any questions on that, it is on our website for the public to be able to view. And the only other thing I have is that with the full-timer that left last month to go to another job, we were in the process of testing for replacement, and we did finish that up, so we're going to try to pursue further, and hopefully in the May meeting we'll have a swearing in his
Good.
replacement.
Chiefs, looks like your collection was up considerably.
It is, yeah.
Very nice.
It's going good. Hope to keep it that way. That's all I have.
Okay, questions? Recreation report, do you have anything?
Mike had nothing further to add, but I will add baseball is in full swing and soccer's done, so the parks are being used constantly.
Okay. Maintenance report, Tracy, leave us anything?
He did not leave anything, so he has nothing, I have nothing to add from his, nothing to have on Tuesday report.
Okay,
If you see Sycamore Road's currently under construction,
Yep.
it's only, Mr. McGrew, it's only gonna get worse, sorry to say.
Mr. Miller, Law Director report.
The Duke Pipeline hearings start next week on Tuesday. I'm planning on attending at least Tuesday, sort of get the lay of the land. If you don't mind, I'll kind of use my judgment if I don't think I need to be there every day.